There aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Rebel Alliance podcast. I'm your host, Aaron, and today we've got some trust stuff we're going to talk about. Basically getting into a few different types of trusts. This conversation has come up a little bit lately, and of course, like everything else, there's good information and there's bad information out there, and we're going to try to tackle some of that today. So as usual, we are running behind. We got hit with a snowstorm last night. Wasn't expecting that. So the snow removal took me a little bit longer than I had anticipated. And that being said, if anybody has turned on the TV today, boy, oh boy, has the Iowa caucus been interesting. And everywhere you look, Trump's landslide, Trump this, Trump that. Very interesting to see what's going to happen this next political cycle in the next few months. And where everything's going to go. But it is pretty interesting to see how much he won by, whether you like him or not. I really don't care either way. I mean, if he would have done what he said the first go around, we wouldn't be where we are at now. So I don't think much is going to change. It's, two wings of the same bird, if you ask me. But that being said, I just thought it was interesting how that has now dominated the news cycle for probably the next day or two. Everything else is going to get pushed to the wayside. So that being said, we're going to talk about some trust stuff today. And we're going to tie this in a little bit of how this works with an association, or why maybe you want a trust in working with, I guess is the best way to put it, with your association. And so let's jump into it. And this is episode 50. And as always, none of this constitutes as taxes legal advice. It's just one person's topic, or thought on the topic, I should say. So there's a few things that we need to look at first, or I guess the housekeeping I should get out of the way. So I'm getting ahead of myself today. I'm all screwed up. So first things first, if you are looking for your own templates to do this, to set up your own association, your unincorporated association for your community, or whatever it is that you're looking to do, or a free church or anything like that, you can, as always, head over to the pmamanifesto.com or East Coast PMA, and you can pick up a copy for yourself there. They are downloadable. You also get everything you need to put together for your association. It's all color coded. We spent a lot of time on getting these DIY hybrid templates together. There's examples and everything like that in there. So feel free to go over there and get those if you need them. And then you can always consult with one of us to help you along the way should you have any questions. Also, while you're over at the East Coast PMA, there's some stuff on the right-hand side that's clickable and across the top banner. So the first banner, if you are looking for an alternative currency, I would suggest either using Goldbacks or Liberty Dollar Financial Association. It's another association that provides banking-like services, but everything's backed by silver. And you can even send it digitally, so it can kind of replace your Venmo and stuff like that. And if you don't use that, I would definitely think you should check out the Strike app. That's a good way of buying crypto and sending it cash or crypto to people. But anyways, it's a whole nother topic. That being said, there's also talking about crypto. If you are considering using crypto lightning payments and you want to control everything, maybe you're a little bit of a control freak, or you just want to take back more of your computer sovereignty, head over to Start9 and you can pick up one of their home servers over there. I have the Embassy Pro, I believe it is, or that's what it used to be called. And I run my own Lightning node. I have my own end-to-end encrypted text messaging on it for the fam. So people, once they, it just goes through our server, doesn't go all over the place. It's a little bit more secure. I also run my own BTC Pay, which is a Bitcoin Pay server. So it kind of works like PayPal. I can set up items on there. People can purchase them using cryptocurrency, and then I can stack those sats and so forth. So that's kind of some of the housekeeping, getting that out of the way. Usually I am in more of a organized spot here, but that's not happening. Oh, and then if you do go over to the Start9, make sure you use the code Rebel Alliance, all one word, so you get 9% off. I almost forgot that. All right, I'm gonna bring up the chats. Hey, Frozen Dog, thanks for jumping in. And Let me know if you have any questions on this stuff, or if anybody else listening. I will pop over to the Facebook group and see if anybody has any questions there, as those don't populate. Only the YouTube stuff, I think, does. So that being said, let's start talking about trust. Now, there's a few things that we have to understand. There's basically two types. And again, don't believe what I'm saying. Always go out and research this stuff. And if you go over to East Coast PMA, there'll be some stuff on there for the inner circle members, some templates and so forth that deal with trust. And then there'll be some other information for the rest of you all that aren't members. So first is a revocable trust. And basically a revocable trust is a trust that one can alter or terminate during their lifetime. So you can put assets in, you can take assets out, you can put a business in, a piece of property, take it out, that sort of thing. It's flexible in its management and distribution of assets, can be changed or revoked by the grantor's situation, or if their intentions change. So normally, one of the trusts we're going to talk about is a living trust. Those are usually revocable, and then they turn irrevocable once that person passes, so nothing can be changed. And again, it all depends on your individual situation, and it depends on what state you're in. As we say with everything else here, it's your geographical location that determines some of the stuff. And when we talk about one particular type of trust here in Connecticut, it's not the best place to set it up. But if I go over to my favorite state, Wyoming, that's a real good place to set it up, and we'll get there in a second. So some of the benefits of having a revocable trust, and a lot of trust in general, is you're going to avoid probate. If you have any property or houses in a trust, it's a way to avoid probate court and everything like that. Provides privacy. You can manage the assets during the grantor's incapacity if anything should happen with the trustee. So you're going to have three parts to a trust. You're going to have your grantor, or the person that creates it. You're going to have your trustee, the person that kind of manages the trust. And then you're going to have your beneficiary, the person who benefits from the trust. And in some cases, you can be the grantor and the beneficiary. You just have to have somebody else that is a trustee. So that being said, limitations. And you'll hear a lot of this like pure trust and all this other stuff out there from these people setting this stuff up. Listen, you can go online. You can probably even go to Staples. I think they used to have like trust templates and stuff like that. Again, you can write it yourself. I would highly suggest using either a really good template and then having it reviewed by somebody, whether it's a CPA or an attorney, to make sure you're not missing anything. And again, when you bring it to somebody, I'm sure they're going to find something to justify their fees. So that being said, as long as you're comfortable with it, it is a private document. Limitations with a revocable trust is it does not provide any tax benefits or asset protection during the grantor's lifetime. So that's important to understand. Oh man, I need coffee today. Let me tell you. So I went back to the side note. I'm a little sore today too, because after having a shoulder injury from surfing and then detaching the retina in my eye, and it's still not 100% because now I have a cataract on it where I can't see. I finally decided to start, instead of just working out around the house doing calisthenics, actually get back into the gym. And I'm a little sore today. But anyways, that's a whole nother story on personal fitness. Number 2 is an irrevocable trust. It's a trust that basically, once it's established, once the grantor puts this trust together, it can't be changed. You can't take assets out of it. You can't alter it. You can't amend it. You can't revoke it. You can't do anything like that. It is set up and pretty much set in stone. Now, there are cases where judges have gone through and manipulated things, I guess is the best way to put it. But on average, it's what if you put a house in there? That house is now part of that trust. You can't then take that house out of the trust and say, hey, it's going back to Mr. Smith, homeowner. It stays in the Mr. Smith irrevocable trust, right? So what's good about this is that if you are looking to limit your how do I want to put this, your assets, or limit a reason of why somebody would want to come after you. Let's say you get into a fender bender and they want to see how much you have and certain things you have, or if you're in a position where you're open to lawsuits, or maybe you're in law enforcement or something like that. Once they're placed in an irrevocable trust, they're no longer considered your assets. It's now the trust asset. So you've heard me talk about it before. What we've done here with the homestead is we use a different type of trust. We use a land trust, and you see those a lot in real estate because it's just for real estate or land. And we have that trust set up where the property is part of that trust. It's on the asset schedule. I think it's Schedule A. And then I have a friend of mine who is the trustee, somebody that I trust. And so she kind of runs that. And then we have a company that is the beneficial owner. So we still own that company. But it would be hard. I probably shouldn't have put this out there, but it would be hard to find out who owns it because it's a Wyoming LLC. So it's an anonymous LLC. So that's one way of doing it. Now, if you have property that you want to put into a land trust, make sure you check with your lending institution if the house isn't paid for free and clear, because it will change the title when you file the quick claim deed or the warranty deed or whatever you're using in your area. It's what most places use now, because it'll say on file who owns that property, and it's going to be, for us, it's the Pine Ridge Homestead. The Pine Ridge Homestead Trust is what it's called. So that being said, your bank might get notified of that. And as you know, like for me, I use Navy Federal. I have a VA loan. So they told me as long as I am still either the beneficiary of the trust or the business that is getting put on title, because some people, like real estate investors, they'll use LLCs for that limited liability protection, and they might put 3 rental properties in it, and then they'll set up another LLC for another 3 rental properties. That way there, if something goes south, that person can only get what is held within that LLC or that trust, whether if they wanted to use like an unincorporated business trust or something along those lines. So you want to make sure that it's okay with your lending institution that if you were to transfer the title, basically, that as long as you're still the majority owner or beneficiary, that it's okay. And in our case, it was, because most loans have a due on sale clause. So if it was that, let's say you hear a lot of these gurus back in the late 90s and early 2000s, subject to financing, they buy the house with the financing staying in place, and they basically just make the payments on that house for that homeowner who's behind or whatever. And then what happens is the bank finds out, hey, this payment's coming from somebody else. The title changed hands. You're not benefiting from this house anymore. We want you to pay that $300,000 all up front or whatever. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at this stuff. But if you are trying to limit your assets for any type of legality reasons, this is a great way of doing it. So, all right. So some of the key features, once the assets are placed in the trust, they're no longer considered the personal assets of the grantor. And again, check with the CPA on this stuff, but it does offer tax advantages, asset protection a little bit, and it can be used for charitable giving. Some things to consider is you're going to lose control of those assets. Decisions made at the creation of the trust are permanent. So if there's something you meant to put in the trust and you forget, or that's why I always say it's better to have a second set of eyes, look at whatever documents you're creating. If you are to do this yourself, that, you know, you make sure you're dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's. And again, we have a few people on watching. So I think so far the most we've had is 10. I don't think we'll hit that today. It's not really that much of an exciting topic, and it's not doom and gloom. But if you are watching and you want to question or shout out or whatever, feel free to pop it in the chat and I will answer here for you. So, and some things to consider, unlike an irrevocable trust or a revocable trust, the irrevocable trust, you lose control of those assets. You can't change things. You can't pull things in and out. So that's important to remember. And each state kind of handles trust law a little bit differently, but it doesn't mean if you live in, like I'm in Connecticut, I can't set up a trust in Wyoming. You just have to have a person there. I can't think of the name of the term now. It's going to slip my mind. I should have wrote this down. You're going to have somebody in that town that's going to act as the point of contact. They might have an office there where mail goes to. It's very similar when we set up our Wyoming LLC. We registered agent. I knew it would come to me. Registered agent in that area. So here in Connecticut, we have something that's called a dynasty trust. Now, and you're going to see, I talk about Wyoming a lot because they have some really good laws when it comes to this stuff. And basically what's going to happen is with the dynasty trust here in Connecticut, I think it's like 600 or 700 years. And it's for long-term to pass wealth from one generation to another. In Wyoming, it's 1,000 years. So it's a long-term trust designed to pass wealth from generation to generation without transferring taxes such as estate and gift taxes. So if you have, let's say you own the Yellowstone and you want to transfer that to the next generation, putting it in a dynasty trust would be the way to do that. It can last for several generations. It's often a specific number of years as allowed by law. So like I said, Connecticut, I think it's like 600 or 700 years. Wyoming's 1,000 years. Some of the benefits, like I said, it preserves wealth for future generation, provides tax benefits, asset protection from beneficiary creditors. And we're going to talk a little bit more about specifics when it comes to asset protection. And now, if you have a homestead and you want to you transfer it over to a family or, somebody, a second or third generation, that's a great way to do it. Again, it avoids probate and everything like that. And that, usually are set up as irrevocable. So just keep that in mind. Just look at the comments real quick. All right. Nope, that's private chat. There we go. Okay. No comments. So we're good. Occasionally, if you look at it up online, the Dynasty Trust will say it's for high worth individuals. Listen, my house isn't the most expensive house in the world. I've only got, just under 6 acres of land. Hopefully I can buy the 30 next to us eventually. But to me, that's my piece. That's my homestead. That's my hopefully generational wealth that I can pass on, is this house and the homestead that we're building here to other generations of the family. Now, again, it's not like Yellowstone, the TV show or something like that, or it's not like we have 300-acre ranch or anything. We're small. We're going to be a micro farm, but again, to me, it's important, and to me, it's important to pass down. So, you might have a house sitting on an acre, half acre, quarter acre, and you want to pass that house on and everything like that. And maybe a dynasty trust would make more sense, as opposed to like a living trust or something like that. So, just keep that in mind. It's mostly for extended periods of time. So a living trust we talked about earlier, it usually is revocable. You can have an irrevocable living trust, but it really, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense, because most of the time, the way the living trusts are written, from what I've seen, is that if and when the person passes, it then becomes irrevocable. So no more changes can be made to it. And it allows that person, while they're living, to make changes and amendments as they need, as their situation changes. So a living trust is a trust created during the grantor's lifetime. Can be either revocable or irrevocable, like I said. And it allows the managing of assets during the grantor's life and provides a plan for distribution after death. Avoids probate, maintains privacy, and allows for immediate transfer of assets upon the grantor's death. So I think that's pretty important if we're talking about, preserving our wealth. And I'll touch about how this comes into play with associations near the end, because if you go over and to Liberty Dollar Financial Association, they're an association that's held inside of a trust. So there's different ways of doing things, and that's why I think it's important that you talk to somebody if you're looking to go down this route of unincorporated associations, because you're going to get a lot of one size fits all, and that's just not the case. So also, I do love coffee. So if you're listening to the replay of this, or you're in the chat now, if there's a certain brand of coffee you really like, I like a darker, richer body. I don't like the light roast stuff. Let me know what coffees you think are best out there. I'm always interested in trying new coffees, and I've tried a bunch of different ones, but I'm always open for more suggestions. So that's your living trust. And then and this is the trust I really want to talk about the most, because I think it is very important if we're going to be protecting our assets. So again, it depends on what type of trust you're looking to have set up and what the reason for is. For me, it's mostly either protecting an asset or shielding what assets I have. So the next one is going to be an asset protection trust. Now, there's two different types of these trusts. There's an asset protection trust that you can form here in the States, whether it's in, and not every state recognizes them. Like Connecticut recognizes them, and you have to wait, I think it's 5 or 7 years before the asset is untouchable to creditors and lawsuits and that sort of thing. Other states, it's instantaneous. So you want to pick where you set up these trusts. And then the other type of asset protection trust is an offshore asset protection trust, where it's held in an island somewhere and there's somebody that manages it. And that, I would say, would be for somebody that has a real high net worth, because you're going to be paying this person to manage it offshore and stuff like that. And the reason for that is they don't have to abide by our laws. So, but in general, it's defined as a trust designed to protect assets from a creditor. It's often irrevocable and may be established in jurisdictions with favorable asset protection laws. And that's where we're going to fall back into Wyoming and why it's so important, I think, to set them up there out of most places. Considerations, pros, I should go over pros first. It shields assets from potential future creditors, lawsuits, or judgments, which is huge. You don't want to have anything like that happen to you, especially let's say you have a lot of money coming in, or you have a business or something like that, or you just have a house or cars or what have you. You don't want somebody to force you to sell your items. So considerations, its legal and ethical implications must be established before any issues arise for it to be effective. So again, like Connecticut, you have to wait. It's either 5 or 7 years, but in Wyoming, it's instant. And you want to have this set up before something happens, before there's a lawsuit or a creditor or what have you. So what I wanted to, and I'm going to post some of these links on East Coast PMA, and if I remember, I'll put them in the show notes afterwards when it comes to Wyoming stuff. So the Wyoming Asset Protection Trust is also known as a self-settled spendthrift trust. Let's see. So here's why it's important or beneficial for protecting your assets by setting it up in Wyoming. And I'll throw this website up for you guys on East Coast PMA. So there's a lower taxation. The state of Wyoming has some of the lowest taxes in the nation. It has no state capital gains tax, nor state income tax on either the individual or corporate level. Even as a non-resident of Wyoming, you are eligible for those tax benefits if you establish a trust here. That's why you have to have that registered agent in that state. All right. Privacy. Wyoming has some of the best privacy laws. In Wyoming, you can set up your trust so that it is not on public record. Although the existence of your trust might still be revealed by a lawsuit, this legal protection of privacy will make it much harder for creditors to find you. Duration, it says that the Wyoming trust can basically last forever, 1,000 years to be precise. And this website is from I think they're a California agency, but it refers to like trust requirements in California where they have to be terminated after 90 years. And then it goes into the directors of the trust, proximity, and I'll let you read all this stuff. But it's really, I think, important to understand that you can get this trust set up in Wyoming, have a registered agent there, and then put all your assets into this trust. And then if anything should happen or somebody comes after you for something, that those assets can't be taken. So how does this all play into association? So one of the trusts we really didn't go over is an unincorporated business trust. And it's a trust that's set up for businesses. And they came out of Massachusetts in the 1700s. You'll hear it referred to as a Massachusetts trust. Now, if you go on to the IRS website, they had put out some publication a while back that the unincorporated business trust or Massachusetts trust is being used for fraud. Well, it was, and you can find court cases where people were trying to avoid paying taxes and that sort of thing. And maybe we'll get into that in another time. But anything can be used for that. You could use an LLC, an S corp, or what have you. So the point is that the unincorporated business trusts aren't used as much anymore because we have the LLCs, the LLPs, and that sort of thing. But basically, what it is the trust set up to do business and to hold businesses. So you could do that with your association. You could put that inside of an unincorporated business trust, get an EIN number for that business trust. That way there, you don't have to go and get an EIN number for your association. If you don't want to, you could do everything right through the trust. That's why we also tell people that you can use the anonymous LLC out of Wyoming. Kind of works in a similar way, except that, your average Joe is going to be more familiar with an LLC if you go down to the bank than they are an unincorporated business trust. Now, that doesn't mean that you couldn't take your association and put it into an asset protection trust to protect that association from any lawsuits or anything like that. Now, again, I don't think that's probably the best way to go. I would use an unincorporated business trust if I was going to do something like that. And again, there's certain trusts for specific reasons. Like we were talking about the land trust, for example, that was used for land or real estate, and then the dynasty trust for generational wealth and that sort of thing. So again, it all depends on your situation. So some people say, well, I want an unincorporated association. Okay, great. What are you going to be doing with it? Now, if you're going to be doing, farming and agricultural stuff, great. Just have your association set up, do it that way. Maybe you just pay each other in dollar bills, or Liberty Dollar, or some type of other alternative currency, because the dollar's going to crap. But or maybe it makes sense to have that association inside of the unincorporated business trust to be able to say, okay, now who owns what, who's in kind of keeping prying eyes off things. So that is kind of some of the key things I wanted to go over today when it comes to the trust, because there's a lot of, again, with anything else, it depends on who you watch or what you listen to, but there's some bad information on there. There's, on these different platforms, there's also some good information. There's also misinformation. And, I don't think people take enough time to understand, like, hey, listen, yes, you hear common law talked about all the time. Oh, common law this, common law that. Yes, there is common law. There's also trust law. There's tort law. There's a bunch of different types of law with under the law umbrella. And that's why you have attorneys that specialize in one thing or the other, because there's so much of it. And I think trusts are a great way to either hold your association or to be able to protect your personal assets. So maybe you do have, like I said, we have the homestead here. We were looking for ways to protect that. How can I do that? And if I want to keep it private into myself, maybe having an LLC formed in Connecticut's not the best way of doing it. Maybe having the LLC in Wyoming's a little bit of a better way of doing it, and then putting it inside of a trust. And so there's, again, it's important that when you are talking about this stuff, that you are, you understand what you're getting into. One, that's why we were talking about like contract stuff earlier, or later, last week, is because, if you're signing a contract to your membership agreement, you got to know what that says. And, you also want to know that if you are, creating a trust, what that trust says. And don't just take, like I said, I was going to put up some templates. It's for you to look at. You can pick them apart, take what you want from them. These aren't ones that I've created. There's just ones that I've had and seen over the years. So it's just one of those things that you can utilize. And then I think, like I said, even at one point in time, you could go to Staples and get a basic living trust there. And I think that is really important. Not enough people have these. Everybody talks about, hey, I have a will, I have this. So that's great. You have a will, but it still has to go through probate. So it's important to say, hey, listen, I'm going to have this trust set up, and, it's going to hold businesses, or it's going to hold real estate, or it's going to hold family assets, or I just need it for good old fashioned asset protection. So if something should happen, I don't lose everything that I've worked so hard for. And, I was hoping to get some questions. There are some, let's see if I can pull them up real quick. There were some questions in the PMA manifesto I wanted to answer while we were on here. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see here. So yeah, 14 comments. I said, what questions do you have? And just want to go over these real quick. So let's see. Oh wait, I think I answered some of these. Oh, they were asking about some of these other PMA places, and I don't want to put their name out there. Um, yeah, never mind. I thought there'd be something that I could put on here. We'll do a Q&A probably later this week. I'll go through some of these, and well, we have 5 member requests. So if you have recently sent a member request into the PMA manifesto, we will get that taken care of in the next day or two. We like to try to vet everybody that we let into that group. So that being said, let me get to the right tab here. And yeah, I think that's it for associations and trust. So this is kind of like an overview of the different types of trust. And like I said, if you are looking for that asset protection, take a look at setting up a trust in Wyoming for the asset protection. And if you do have an association and you don't want to have a registered LLC, whether it's in your state or in Wyoming, then you can get I have templates for an unincorporated business trust. You can set it up yourself. It's kind of a fill in the blank. Again, you can use it the way it is, or you can have somebody else take a look at it if you're uncomfortable with just kind of believing what I'm saying. And then you can have that unincorporated association inside that unincorporated business trust, get an EIN for that business trust, and the business trust would handle all the day-to-day finances and workings of the association and stuff like that. So there's definitely more than one way to skin the cat, as they say. So we're coming up on just about a half hour here. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this kind of opened your eyes to the world of trust. And like I said, just remember there's like really a few key points when it comes to trust. And you're going to hear all these other terms kicked around. Like I said, pure trust and all this other stuff, but it's either a revocable trust or an irrevocable trust. That's the first thing. There's three parties involved. There's the grantor, the trustee, and the beneficiary, and then what the trust is set up for, whether it's asset protection, a living trust, so you can, use it as you are alive, and then it becomes an irrevocable trust when you pass, and, a dynasty trust and all these other different types. So if you even just do a quick search through your search engine, and you'll get even different results if you have one of those Start9 systems and you're running your own search engine. You'll be able to see all the different types of trusts and then see what trusts are good in your state versus setting them up in a state like Wyoming or Nevada or Maryland, something like that. But by far, Wyoming for me has some of the best stuff out there. So keep that in mind when you're looking into these trusts. They're not all the same. They're all different. They're all, again, like an association. They're tailored to a specific need. And that being said, thanks for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow, and we will try to get it on time tomorrow. Hopefully, no other surprises pop up. So I'm going to give it a quick second here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them real quick, and I'll answer them before we get off. If not, thanks for watching. Please make sure that you subscribe, tell others about the channel. That's how you help get this information out there, get us growing as a community. Subscribe to the Telegram channel, Facebook, and then get on the monthly newsletter so you know when stuff's happening. When I send that out, it's not always monthly. It's only when I have anything good to say. But all right, not seeing any questions. Thank you all for spending your afternoon with me, and I will see you on the next live stream. Peace.
Risings all over the country, and maybe there will be.